I'm going to hit record, and hopefully everybody can still see the screen that says Class of 2025 Town Hall. Just want to welcome you all. We wanted to give an update specifically to our 7th graders, to our rising 8th graders, and give a sense of where we're at, where some of our planning is at, and everything that's been going on. We didn't want you to think with all of our attention that's been going, particularly to graduation and seniors and closing out this year, that we may have forgotten about our class of 2025. So we have not. We've been working really hard actually at making sure that we're ready to go for grade 8 next year, even though we're still a little bit on hold with some of our planning, because typically we would have gone down to Whiten a few times and had the kids up to the high school a few times, but so it goes. We're in some crazy times. So we're going to keep the chat room open. There is a chat feature. If you have any questions, please type them right in there, and we will do our best to come back to that when we get to the end of the meeting. We'll do our best to answer any questions that you may have. I know Mr. DeMaglio will keep an eye on that as well for us, assuming that it's up and running. So just a little bit about what we're going to realize is that in a few weeks, students who are out there, you'll be high schoolers. And a couple of years ago, that wouldn't have been the case, but in a few weeks, you'll be high schoolers. When you get promoted from grade 7 to grade 8, for us, even though you're in 8th grade, we treat our 8th graders like they're in high school. We certainly know there'll be a little bit of a learning curve and growing pains and everything else, but we absolutely are going to treat you and treat you like you're one of us. We're not in a situation where you guys are the 8th grade is not considered part of our community or part of our school in full. So for some people, that's a really hard thing to kind of fathom, because it seems like just yesterday you were at Whiten as like the new kids and you were in like 4th grade. So it's happened pretty quickly, and here we are getting ready to welcome you to high school. So now that we have that out of the way, and now that you've kind of come to grips with the fact that you've got a bunch of high schoolers approaching Uxbridge High School in a few weeks or months, what we're hoping to do today is reduce some of the anxiety that may be there about the transition, and give you some idea of what the plans are that we have in place, and get you excited about next year. Now, there are some things that we still don't know. There are some things that are still in flux, and we'll be waiting for some guidance from the commissioner and public health over the next few weeks. But we want you to have confidence in what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. So don't be afraid to ask questions. But if it's a question that really is about your student, about your kids, transition to the school, someone who might be in need of something a little bit more personal, send us an email. We'll have some contacts at the end of this presentation, and we'll be sure to get back to you as soon as we can. We don't want to have the chat feature tonight be about like a specific case. I'm also going to apologize for my scratchy voice. Allergies are killing me. I will do my best to get through this without losing it entirely. So we have 3 things we're going to address tonight. Our current status, meaning what we're working on as far as the incoming grade 8, and actually for everybody. Some plans for next year that you can be on the lookout for, and then some time for Q&A as we get to the end. So where are we now? What do we know? What are we working on? How does that relate to you as you're looking to move from Whiten to UHS? It's one of my favorite plays, one of my favorite authors, Tom Stoppard. Look on every exit as an entrance to somewhere else. You're going to leave Whiten in a few weeks. You're probably already in the next few weeks where you'll start thinking about your summer plans and moving on to high school. And yes, it's one exit, but it's another entrance, and that's to us at the high school. This is what we've already done with respect to rising grade 8. We held our open houses back in February and early March, just before we closed. We had the grade 7 students up for a school day. We got our course selection info from the students. We started putting together schedules sometime around what would have been the April break. We transitioned to remote learning between us and Whiten, as far as our communication with what students needed to learn and what they needed to have as essentials. So we made sure we had that really tight. And in May, in the last couple of weeks, we've shifted our thinking from where are we right now to where do we need to be in August and September. And, Ms. DeMarco and I, as principals, have been spending actually quite a bit of time over the last few days, actually kind of moving our thinking while our teachers are able to focus on ending this year and closing out this year. We can start working more effectively in 2020-21. You know that remote learning is continuing until the end of June and that the schools are closed and we have social distancing, but some of the things that we do at this time of year are the things that we do normally. So we've been building our schedules for the 8th graders, and you'll see in a second, we're pretty much done. The 8th graders have their classes pretty much established for next year, which is really a credit to our guidance counselors and the work that we were able to do with the grade 7 team to make sure we got all the information that we needed. We're very close to being able to provide our students with what their schedules are going to look like. We try to do that. We try to do that in the early part of the summer. Again, it's a pretty specific process for grade 8. It's not as hard as necessarily the juniors and seniors. We are still planning an orientation. Now, typically orientation comes somewhere around the 3rd week of August 16th, 17th, 18th, somewhere in there. We're not going to publish a date specifically until we know we have the green light from the Board of Health and the Department of Public Health. What we may do until we get the green light for September, we may actually look at holding 2 of them. So we can get smaller groups, or 3 of them even. So we can get smaller groups into the school, find where their courses are, get used to the lay of the building, ask questions of our peer leaders. It's really a time for our underclassmen, the rising 8th graders, to get to know some of the upperclassmen. It will still be planned for August. And over the course of the summer, we'll be sending out some information from coaches, from captains, from clubs, so that the grade 7 students start to see those emails. You've probably already started to see some emails from me, and there will be some things that you'll get over the next few weeks that'll have invitations to a student council meeting at the beginning of the year, or invitation for some of the Zoom chats with coaches of teams that you might be wanting to play for, because we want to start making the connections that we didn't have an opportunity to do at the end of the school year. So as far as the master schedule goes, every single one of the 8th graders right now has English, math, science, social studies, and wellness class. Students who requested Spanish have Spanish. Students who requested band or chorus have band or chorus. Most 8th graders, there are a few who don't, have something called Career and Pathway Exploratory, which I'm going to explain in a second. And they all have their 7 classes. Again, we've been scheduling like we're going back to school, and it's going to be normal in the fall. And if we have to make adjustments to that as we go along, we will. But right now, we're holding out for back to normal as normal can be. What the Career Pathways class is going to be is basically a third of the year spent in all of our pathways. So some students will all of our students will either find themselves at the beginning of the year sorted into engineering, biomed, or media. They'll spend about a third of the year in each one of those programs, getting to know some of the technology, some of the programs, some of the different things about it, and doing some of those things down the bottom that are really important just for success. Things like study skills, things like career interest surveys. We've been finding that some of our students are signing up for engineering in grades 8 and 9, and they're not sticking it out because it's not what they think it's going to be. Same with biomedical science, and same with like graphic design and the digital photo and film classes. So that's going to give the kids, the students, a really broad introduction to all of those different programs as over the course of the year. Some students are still going to have classes like graphic design or digital photo or some elective if they didn't take a Spanish, if they didn't take a music. So we do have some students that are going to get a little bit of both. But what we hope this will do is as they leave 8th grade and they go to 9th grade, they'll have a sense of this is what I really like. The classes there are going to be really small. It's actually 3 people in 3 different, from 3 different departments from each of those domains. And so the idea would be that if a kid gets into engineering and loves it, they know that they have the opportunity to take that in grade 9. If they take it in grade 8 and they don't love it, they know that within a few weeks, they're moving on to something else. So we've been really working very hard at looking at soft skills, some of the writing skills, some of the public speaking skills, some of the other things, and more importantly, some of the habits. And that's also going to be where guidance counselors will go in and do some of their lessons and their interest inventories and help kids start working on their plans. So it's going to be a lot like the introduction to engineering class that we've been running, only it's going to be abbreviated and it's going to bring in some of these other domains over the course of the year. So right now, what we're asking the students to do, number one, is close out 2019-20. Teachers are focusing on the essential standards, so do what you got to do to set yourself up and do well. One of the things that I've been talking to our students about are habits. By the time we go back in September, some of you will be out of school for like 5 or 6 months, and it becomes really easy to develop what I'm going to call bad habits. So don't blow off work over these next couple of weeks. We're into the home stretch, and as a guy who used to coach track, I can tell you that the last lap is sometimes just as important as the first. So we want you to finish strong. We are working, number 2, on what we have and have not done to make sure that the kids don't have many gaps. I know some people are worried, like, okay, well, what the time has been lost in these last few weeks, what does that mean for our kids down the road? What does that mean as they get ready for high school? What does that mean as they get ready for some of those traditional, SATs, PSATs down the stretch, MCAS? We're on that. And we are, because of that, going to assess where students are. What we're not sure is if we're going to do that, right at the very beginning of school, or if we're going to do that towards the end of the summer and send something home the students can do online. But we're very much really going to be focusing on where the students are at so we can make sure we fill any of the holes that might have been dug out because of this whole pandemic mess. So what will happen in the next few months? That's our pep rally this year. That's grades 8, 9, and 10, actually. We're not sure if we'll all be in the gym like that again this year because of all the social distancing mess, but I show that picture because while they're seated together as a grade, they're all in one school and they're all under one roof, and that's what we are going to really focus on, even though we've been apart, that our kids are our kids, period. And we've worked really, really hard at making sure that is who we are. So we start that with orientation. I mentioned this will still occur in August. We're not going to plan until later in the summer. I know that for some families that might be planning vacations or time away or family time for August, it's a little bit hard, and I'm sorry that I usually at this time of year am able to say it's August 18th, it's August 21st. I can't do that this year, but I'm hoping I'll be able to do that by the end of June. So please be patient. We're gonna, I think, have a couple of different days, and if somebody misses orientation, it is not the end of the world. We work it out with them as quickly as we can. We are gonna, as we look at the end of this year and into next year, we're gonna focus on what did we finish, what do kids need, how does that impact what they're taking, and what are the supports we need to put in place. There are gonna be some students who are gonna struggle. There are gonna be some students who are gonna have different kinds of needs, and we want you to know as parents, guardians, families, that if you have needs with whatever school looks like in the fall, we're ready. We've been really fortunate to have an unbelievable student support team and a faculty that really steps up for kids. So I would say, for me personally, that as we look at what the needs are and how that's going to impact what kids are doing on a day-to-day basis and how that impacts their classes, you have very little to worry about, because people, while we're all in a little bit of uncertainty, these are the things that we're focusing on over the next 4 months, and we will be ready. I have no question, no lack of confidence in that. So we're focusing on two sides of it. We're focusing on the curriculum, what they learn, and the supports is, how they're learning. There are a lot of people here who I'm sure are saying, you know what, this remote learning thing hasn't been that bad. I get up, I do what the teacher assigns, I finish what I got to finish, and I move on. Then there are some people who have really struggled with it. So we want to make sure that we've put supports in place now and later for both sides of the coin, so to speak. I really hesitated for a while on putting this slide together, but the reality is we want to make sure that in our planning for next year, we're safe. We're taking our guidance from the state. We're taking our guidance from Board of Health and Dr. Black, and the folks in town have been just awesome with helping us with our guidelines. We are actually hoping to be back in the buildings in the next 3 weeks or so, at least having the offices open and having people in there more frequently. But if we have to switch back, what have we learned? And what went well? What didn't go well? What are the things that you can help us with if we ever have to go back to remote learning? Because there seems to be a lot of speculation that could be the case. We're going to plan on it and hopefully never use it. And that's kind of how I'm CPR certified. I've never had to use it. That's how I'm kind of approaching it. I hope I never have to use CPR, but you have it in your back pocket if you need it. And that's how we're approaching remote learning, going to approach remote learning as we head into next year. We're looking at safety. There might be some kids and some families who are worried about chronic medical conditions, worried about how we keep the building clean. That's what we're working on now. We're working on all of the logistics, where we already have had communication with our leagues, with the MIAA. I see Mr. Carboni's here. Athletics has been, really making sure that we have a solid start to the fall, so we can have a fall season. We've addressed some of those challenges. So we're working on everything. So as we look at supports for grade 7, the foundation is what do you have coming in? So as we start asking some of those questions, we start surveying students and we start asking parents what they think we need. That provides our foundation. The next steps, what has the last 3 months done to us? What has remote learning meant to us as a school? And then how do we plan for that? And then if there are people who need additional support, whether it's a support class during the day, whether it's some extra help, whether it's some time in the building just to get used to where things are. Some people will walk in and within 2 days, they have the schedule down pat and they're good. And then there are other kids, it takes them a little while to get adjusted. So, typically during the summer, the building's open. People call me and Mr. DeMeglio and say, hey, can we come in and, just walk around and hold our schedule and find where our classes are? And we're able to say yes. Right now we can't.
All right. Would you do this with your parents?
Yeah. All students will have a school guidance counselor. We have a school psychologist. We have an adjustment counselor. We actually have blocks in our schedule that are set aside for academic intervention or extended learning. They take their core classes with other 8th grade students. So we're really trying to protect, and nurture what needs grade 8 can have or might have. And again, we don't know what all of them are. So if there are things that very specifically, my student does well with X, Y, or Z, allowing us to know those sort of things ahead of time would be really, really helpful. And we'll talk a little about how you can do that in a couple of minutes. We also are going to give out iPads. In the past, we've done iPads over orientation. You as parents will get an email from me probably in mid-July about how to sign up, how to register for insurance if you want to buy it, because the school district does self-insure, how we're going to distribute them, what the safeguards are. what the use is from school. If you want to buy a cover, what cover is the best one, which version is going to be. You can expect that to come in some form or another by the middle of July. And again, if we have any kind of hiccup with orientation, we'll come up with a way to distribute it. We have this pretty much down to a science, and the plan is still to have those ready to go by the middle of August. There were some issues, to be honest, with the supply chain for iPads a few weeks ago with parts from China and some other, economic things going on. But we feel pretty good that we'll be good to go for August. And the reality is, even though we've been closed, we've had some pretty awesome things still happening since we last met. So we met in February or March, and since then, our student council earned a gold medal. I've been in Uxbridge for 5 years. They've won the gold medal 4 times, the silver medal once. Our project Lead the Way became just the 3rd, I think, school in Massachusetts to be named a distinguished school for the program. It's because of the number of kids that we have that score qualifying for college credit. Some of those people, teachers and students, have been manufacturing. I don't know if you can hear the whirring behind me. That's my 3D printer, building face masks. And we've been able to actually do that with a bunch of students at home. We've been deploying equipment all over Central Mass. And our girls basketball won the state's Central Mass Sportsmanship Award. So we like to think that we're doing things right. And that's just a little sampling of the last month since we were last here. Online, lots of info. We have 2 stations. When I share this out, I have a YouTube channel. I put all of our town halls on. I put all of our meetings on. I record our weekly notes that we send out to families. They get recorded. They're on a podcast channel. Some people like to read. Some people like to listen. We're on Twitter, where most of the time things that we send out as announcements are posted to that blog, and we post things to the website. So if you have a particular way you want to get information from us, it's out there. If you like to stream video, we have video. If you like audio and you want to listen to something in the car, we can podcast for you. So we do probably most frequently. A lot of the teachers use Twitter, so you get a lot of things there. It's a great resource, and people do post things about classes, and you might even get a sense of what they're doing right now as well. This is me and Mr. DeMaglio. Our emails are listed right there. Again, if there's something that's really specific, something nagging, something that you are concerned about, email one of us. That was both when we had better hair. That's why I'm wearing a hat. I haven't had a haircut since February, and it shows. But email us, send us a note. We can direct it. If we can't answer the question, we can direct it to the person who can. And as we move towards questions, I'm gonna turn the floor over to Mr. DeMaglio because I know he had a couple things to add. I'll unmute him. And I'm going to take a drink of water, and we'll get to any questions that are out there. Mr. D, it's all you. But I got to unmute you first. Is it not letting me unmute you? You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
I got it. Okay. Let's see. We didn't have that many questions. So I just want to take a moment to just welcome everybody. Usually we do this in person, obviously. And my screen is set up so that I can only really see the slideshow more than anything, and just a few faces. So eventually, hopefully, we'll get to meet and say hello, and I'm pretty certain that'll happen sometime in August, and which is a real nice time when kids can just sort of hang out with us and walk the building, and just to get to know the layout of the land, so to speak, without any hustle and bustle. And generally kids come in and say hello, and that's just a nice time. So, along the way, I always tell kids that are coming up from Whiten, get involved in the school, get involved in anything, whatever interests you, get involved. That's the most important thing. I've said that to all my kids growing up, and they did, and they were very successful. And I say that to every class coming up. Get involved with school, get involved with teams and, academic teams and sports teams. it keeps you part of the school, and it's so positive. I've never seen anything negative come from it. So that would be my overarching goal for everybody, is get involved with school. Mr. Rubin.
Thanks, Mr. DeMaglio. I know that some of the things that do happen that didn't happen over the course of this last part of the year. There was a question in the chat room relative to 504s and IEPs. If for some reason there was a time frame, if something expired over these last few weeks, oftentimes we actually have transition meetings with the counselors and the Whiten counselors. We do the transition meetings, the IEP meeting. We do hold those transition meetings. Mrs. Tobin is our team chair. You can reach out to her, and Miss Smith and Miss Moran, Mr. Barry, the three guidance counselors. You could certainly reach out to them as well. Mr. Carboni, I know you're here somewhere. There you are. I've just got a few pages of people. So anything you want to add about athletics, and when do we plan on opening up registration for the fall for grade 7? You can unmute yourself.
Hello. Hi, everyone. So as far as athletics go in fall and in plans, typically around July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, right around there, I'll be opening up the fall registration portal for Family ID. Sometime in June, I will send out instructions with how to register if you're new to, doing the registration process, and then send out, a big document for everyone to explain the whole process. It will highlight the registration process, eligibility, show you some where our schedules are located and whatnot. So you should expect an email from me probably around mid-June with a lot of that information, as well as, registration should open up early July. So definitely look out for that. I think that's it.
Let me see. I'm going to stop the share just because.
Yeah.
Bring me back over to the rest of everybody else. As far as questions about your schedules, about courses, about things that you might be a little unsure about, like I thought I signed up for band, but I didn't sign up for band. Did I sign up for Spanish? Those questions often come up over the summer. Miss Smith is here. Hi, Miss Smith. I know Miss Moran's here too.
Yeah, I'm trying to find her.
Hello. So hi, everyone. We are so looking forward to working with your kids in the fall. I've worked very closely with the incoming 8th graders for the last 2 years. Any questions related to scheduling, just sort of, concerns you might have about electives, the course load, just please reach out to us. We're here to help. I did see a question about 504. IEP specific questions will go to Ms. Tobin, but if you have any questions as it relates to a 504, please feel free to reach out to the guidance counselors, because we are actually the coordinators for all of our caseload of students. So if there's anything 504 specific, we're happy to help you with that.
Mr. Barry is here too. So sorry, Mr. Barry, I didn't realize you were there. Anything?
Hi, I'm Miss Moran. I'm here too. I had to step away for a minute, but I'm back. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Mrs. Smith, for speaking on behalf of that 504 question.
Yeah, I snuck in late. I had some Zoom issues from this morning. My computer had to reboot. But as I said in the chat, any questions you guys have, reach out to us. There's a lot that we do know, and if we don't know something, we'll get that answer for you. So, look forward to having you guys all up in the 7th grade next year, 8th grade.
And Mr. Carboni, there was a question about what sports 8th graders can be involved in, high school levels, all of them, right?
Yes, all of them. I actually just replied to that. All sports that we offer, if the 8th graders have a chance to participate on some level, whether it be a level 3 for football and basketball, junior varsity, or varsity sport. So we've had 8th graders participate on at the varsity level. So whatever sports we offer, they'll have their shot.
Now, the only sport an 8th grader can't play varsity on is football, I believe, and that's
Football, which will be a level 3. Yep.
they play with
Correct.
7th graders, but everything else, we've had 8th graders playing on the varsity and field hockey, both soccers, the tracks. Yeah, pretty much. We haven't had one in softball, but we certainly could. And golf. And girls basketball, actually. Boys basketball, we could, but we have not. And the tennises we have, and cheer. So I think everything except, like I said, everything except boys basketball and football, usually because of the size issue. We don't want anybody to get hurt.
And on those sports, we do have 3 different levels of participation. So, they'll figure out their place somewhere.
Thanks, Mr. Carboni.
You got it.
All right, I don't anything else in that chat room. I'm looking at the wrong screen, so I apologize.
Nope.
Looks
Yeah, good.
about it. So I guess kind of as a closing thought to the students out there, one of the things you'll hear us start to tell you is high school's a great time to advocate for yourselves. If you have questions, if you have things that you want to reach out to us about, feel free. You know yourselves as well as anybody. You can always send us a note, send us an email asking us some of the questions you may have. To the parents, if there are things that that again are relative to an individual student, things that you're concerned about, in particular coming off of the remote learning and heading back to school, we're here to help. We may not have all the answers right yet, but we're feeling pretty good about our planning. I think we're feeling like we are actually ahead of some of the other some of our colleagues, which is a good thing. And we just keep saying to everybody, be flexible, be patient with us. We'll do our best to communicate everything as quickly as we know things. So be on the lookout, I guess, as you wrap up this school year, some things to be on the lookout for us. We will get a date out about orientation as quickly as we can. Athletics and iPads probably sometime early July. So if you don't see anything or don't hear anything from us before that, don't offense. It's not us maintaining radio silence. It's just that we're in a little bit of a lull over the next few weeks, and not being able to get down to Whiten to tell the students that we wanted to, do something. We'll be posting this online. Like I said, we have that channel. We'll be doing that as soon as pretty much as soon as we're over here. So I guess that's it, Mr. DeMeglio. Anything you want to add to wrap up?
Yeah, just one thing. I know Mrs. DeMarco wants to say just a couple of words, but I know all the kids are coming up very prepared. Their teachers work really hard, and we've heard nothing but good things. So I'm really excited. I know our teachers are really excited. So we're certain to start the year off with in a good place. So Mrs. DeMarco.
Yes, so I just wanted to share with both of you, Mr. Rubin and Mr. DeMeglio, and also the staff at the high school. This is an awesome class that you're getting. They have been working tremendously hard during the remote learning time, during the school closure. I am super proud of them. They really have shown a lot of perseverance and a lot of maturity. And unfortunately, I don't want to let them go. However, I guess I'll have to give them to you. But this is certainly a special class for me, and for various reasons. But I thought I would just take a moment, although I'm sitting here as a parent as well. I thought I would just take a moment to give a shout out to these kids. They are awesome. They're going to do so well up at the high school. And I guess I will give them to you, but not yet. I still have a few more weeks with them.
You have a few more weeks, but then they're high schoolers and they're ours. We'll still
Okay.
We'll
take care of it.
We'll take good care of them. We'll take good care of we'll take good care of all of them. I promise.
Yes.
So to all of you out there, if you have things that you need from us, If you're more comfortable going through Mr. Marco and the folks at the Whiten, until then, obviously, you have some great resources, some great people around you, and you know, even if it's about a specific subject, we could certainly start making connections with some of our teachers who I know would be more than happy to explain to you some of the things you'll be doing next year. There's a lot of them here tonight. They're awesome. You're going to be in really great hands. So I thank you for taking time. It's still light out, so enjoy the rest of the evening. And it's going to be great weather tomorrow, so I hope everybody is able to get outside and enjoy it. So thanks for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.